Germans are coming up, they've got tanks. And so he started appealing to our regiments, and he said to me, I was at the side of the horse, he said, "Men of the East Lancashire Regiment," he said, "now you've got a very good reputation." So I thought, well, it's not much good here, is it, sir? And just at that moment, a German tank came up the hillside from the village, come up the hill, and started firing. Well, that started it. The staff officer on his horse got off his marks as quick as he could.
March the 23rd. The retreat went on. Peronne fell. Behind the slow procession of defeat, the sound of German guns came ever nearer.
Along the road, a slow stream of traffic was moving towards Bapaume and beyond. First waves of a tide which rolled westwards for days and days. Here and there a battery in column of route, walking wounded in twos and threes, an odd lorry or two, a staff car carrying with undignified speed the dignified sign of Corps headquarters, a column of horse transport. I stood watching the unforgettable scene for 10 minutes. It was too sad for words.
March the 24th. Bapaume fell. A gap grew between the 3rd and 5th armies. The 5th Army was now only a thin screen of stumbling, exhausted troops. The Allies faced disaster. That day, Haig met Pétain.
Pétain told me that he had directed General Féal, in the event of the German advance being pressed still further, to fall back southwestwards to cover Paris. It was at once clear to me that the effect of this order must be to separate the British from the French and so allow the enemy to penetrate between the two armies.
To the Kaiser, this was victory. He decorated Hindenburg with the Iron Cross with golden rays, last awarded to Prince Blücher after the Battle of Waterloo. The German press echoed the Kaiser's pride.
The great battle in the West is won. A large part of the English army is beaten.
But Hindenburg realized that the Germans were only halfway to victory.
Whole sections of the English front had been utterly routed and were retiring apparently out of hand in the direction of Amiens. If the town fell into our hands, it was possible that the strategic and political interests of France and Britain might drift apart. So forward against Amiens.
The Kaiserschlacht, the imperial battle, raged on. The line of gunfire crept ever nearer Amiens. Each side threw every man and gun into the struggle. The Allied air forces flew to the limits of endurance, machine gunning and bombing the advancing German troops.
Only time to rebomb and refill tanks and guns when we land from a raid, then all machines off again on the next.
Only the airmen could scan the whole panorama of battle.
The country presents an extraordinary sight from above. Columns of dense smoke going up to 8,000 feet from nearly every town and cottage. Enormous fires from burning stores and dumps. Shells bursting every few yards. Columns of our troops retreating along all main roads and stragglers tramping westwards across the fields.
Still, the retreat went on.
I think we were past hope or despair. We regarded all events with an indifference of weariness, knowing that with the dawn would come another attack.
Once again, civilian refugees abandoned their homes and fled from the enemy.
On the road, the flood of refugees was tramping along in the midst of a cloud of powdery dust that settled on every one of them. The air was filled with the squeaks of carriages, the smack of whips, and the jingle of cowbells.
Haig and Pétain strove to rebuild their shattered line. Hindenburg realized that the battle was becoming a race to Amiens.
English reserves from the north, French troops drawn from the whole of central France, were hastening to Amiens and its neighborhood.
More reinforcements were on their way from England.
Under my office window in the city, there passed this morning as fine a body of men as one could wish to see. They were a draft marching to the station en route to France. The wives and sweethearts of some marched with them. One couldn't watch these sturdy young fellows marching to face the terrors of war without a sense of inexpressible pride.
March the 25th. To the men on the crowded roads, it seemed the retreat would never end. In the words of a gunner, we were on the move again, with real dismay in our hearts. Officers were ordered to use their revolvers, if necessary, to check panics. March the 26th. Now the armies were fighting in the wasteland of the old Somme battlefield of 1916.
On March the 26th, we dropped into a trench. It was a trench we knew of old. We had started to retreat on the 21st of March, 1918. And here we were back in the trench we had started the attack from on November the 13th, 1916.
In the shadow of catastrophe, the British High Command looked to the Channel ports. The French looked to Paris. A gulf was opening between the Allies. In Doullens, a drab little town in the path of the German attack, the Allied leaders gathered in an atmosphere of crisis. Haig believed that Pétain had lost his nerve. Pétain believed that the British would be herded into the Channel. Clemenceau, the French Prime Minister, was appalled at Pétain's pessimism. But General Foch was resolute.
We must fight in front of Amiens. We must fight where we are now. As we have not been able to stop the Germans on the Somme, we must not now retire a single inch.
This was Haig's chance to have the pessimistic Pétain overruled. He took it.
If General Foch will consent to give me his advice, I will gladly follow it.
The conference broke up. Foch had been made Supreme Allied Commander in all but name. But the crisis of the imperial battle had already passed. The tidal wave, the rolling force of March the 21st had spent itself. "5 days of marching and fighting without relief. 5 days short of water, without proper sleep. 5 days of the heaviest air attacks ever yet suffered by fighting troops. The German soldiers knew that the life and death of the fatherland were in their hands, but they could do no more.
The power of attack was exhausted. Our spirits sank to zero.
Day by day, the advance went slower, grew narrower. Hindenburg read the signs of failure.
With us, human nature was urgently voicing its claims. We had to take breath. The infantry needed rest, and the artillery ammunition. It was lucky for us that we were able to live to a certain extent on the supplies of the beaten foe. Otherwise, we should not have been able to cross the Somme.
British canteens and supply dumps had also served to hinder the German advance. The Germans had not seen